No rest for the wicked, and it is victims of the punt time. Good Friday. We're recording this very early Friday morning if you're in WA. Otherwise, normal time over east. But we've got an outstanding meeting at Rosehill coming up this Saturday. 9 races. The feature, of course, is the Tancred Stakes and the Vinery Stud Stakes. Mark Shean, what's your initial impressions of this meeting?
It's not too bad. We've got good weather, and the track should hold up quite well on Saturday. I feel rails going out to the 6 metre mark, so we'll just have to assess how they turn out in play. But the weather's good, so we've got a nice meeting.
Okay, excellent. Mark Rhoden, welcome to the show. Do you have any preset thoughts on how the track might play?
Just on a 6 metre rail, I wouldn't be looking for sweepers or horses that get back. Just with the rail in that position, I would expect on paces to be suited, but with a drier track in prospect, hopefully most get their chance.
Okay, beautiful. We're going to run through the entire card. We'll start with race 1, which is the Group 3 soft drink. Conrad is favourite at the moment. Best available is $3.80 at this stage. That's with a few of the deductions for emergencies, so just be warned there. From Safe, With Your Blessing and Converge. Mark Shean, I'll start with you. Any angles or any thoughts for race 1?
Yeah, pretty keen on Conrad here. He looked a little bit unlucky on debut behind Mizzou, who should have won the Pago off that. And then he went to Wyong. Admittedly, it was a one-lane highway, and he was in the best ground. But this horse does ooze to me that he wants 1,400 metres. He will race on speed, probably sit outside Converge, I would think. And I think he gets in a nice position and will win the first.
Okay, very good. Mark Rhoden, your thoughts on Conrad, the favourite?
I have him on top. I'm not quite as bullish about it as Mark is, but I think he is clearly the one to beat. Just having to come across from that gate, maybe Converge holds him out, and I would probably want better than $4 to make it a betting proposition. But that said, I'm certainly not really looking to bet around him. I thought Converge ran really well first up after a wide trip behind Shakiro. And With Your Blessing closed off quite well in that same race. I think they're the main dangers. Not a betting race for me at this stage, but certainly Conrad clear top pick.
Okay, let's jump to race 2, which is the Group 3 Neville Sellwood, over 2,000 metres. Master of Wine, his favourites, $2.50. Best available from Shared Ambition, $3.40. Entente, $4.20, and the rest are well and truly into double figures. Mark Shean, run us through to Neville Sellwood.
You would think at the weights here, Master of Wine and Shared Ambition would be the two to beat. Not really fussed on Entente, or even though he'll probably roll forward and control the race. I just don't know whether a Master Wine is flying. Admittedly, he was in a strong race the other day, but don't know that he's showing the same ping at the end of his races as he was in the preparation that saw him win a couple of races and then run fourth in the Queen Elizabeth. I'm not sure he's the same horse as that, and Shared Ambition's a bit up and down as well. Look, one on top, but I don't want to bet in the race.
Yep. I think that's actually quite fair, Mark Rhoden, looking at the sectional data on Punting Form. Master of Wine's coming out of 2 very slowly run races for the most part, and it hasn't necessarily recorded anywhere near the same figures or splits.
Yeah, I mentioned last week that I wasn't actually that enamoured of the Ranvet as a race entirely. I thought they were slowly run and they didn't really close off as a group that impressively. I said I didn't think Very Elegant or Adaya went to their best in that race. Master of Wine wasn't really suited, but he just sort of ground away. As Mark said, no zing or zip at the end of his races at the moment. For that reason, I'm pretty keen on Shared Ambition. I thought he wasn't beaten far in a really fast run Australian Cup. I mean, he's run 11th or something, but he was only beaten a couple of lengths. And I quite like the Australian Cup as a form reference. He was flying before that. He knocked off Mount Popper at 1,600 metres first up, then ran a very good second at Caulfield to Paradis. Coolmore Jim McDonald takes the ride tomorrow, and I actually lean to him over Master of Wine, have him favourite. So seeing the markets the other way around, I've got a bet. Entente gets control, but probably lacks the class of the other two, and there's a pretty good gap to the rest. So, yep, Shared Ambition for me.
Okay, let's have a look at the Tulloch. I'm very interested to get your thoughts on this race. 2,000 metres, Cherry Tortoni is favourite, $4.40 is best available. Shading Young Werther from around $5, so's Favreau. The frontman $5.50, Yaletown $6.50. It's congested at the top. Mark Shean, what's your thoughts on Cherry Tortoni, first of all?
Look, I went looking for him. I know his 3 wins have all been on wet ground, which is a slight concern to me. I know he's run some good races on top of the ground. He has had a run in Sydney over 2,000 metres where Favreau beat him home fairly convincingly, I thought. I think Favreau is going a lot better now than he was that preparation. So having said that, I am going for Favreau. This horse was very green last time in, and his 2 best runs were when he got to the Gloaming over 1,800 and the 2,000 Spring Champion. Now, he hasn't got to 2,000 this preparation yet until Saturday, and he's put together 2 wins. Those other 2 runs were coming off failures in maiden. So to my eye, he's going a lot better. And he beat Cherry Tortoni home in the Spring Champion, and I like him to do it again on Saturday.
Okay, beautiful. Mark Rhoden, your thoughts on the Tulloch?
Yeah, interesting. I've been impressed with the way Favreau's going. I'm just not 100% sure where he ends up from the extreme outside barrier. At the set weights, I thought Cherry Tortoni, well, there's only about 4 or 5 who are remotely well placed at level weights. Cherry Tortoni, Young Verda, the front man, and then Favreau and Yaletown, the only ones you really consider as set weights under the set weights conditions. I found Young Verda, however you want to say it, there's been very little between him and Cherry Tortoni, both in the betting and on the track a couple of times, and I think Young Verda's drawn for the better run here. I know Dicko was very backed him to win the national bet in the VRC Derby last spring, but it probably just came up a bit quick for him. He's ticking over very nicely. The pair of these horses weren't suited behind Grand Slam in the Alistair Clark last start, but certainly both did enough, I thought. I've got them together, and with the price differential, I'll probably back Young Vertha. Cherry Tortoni, a great chance, but similar to Favreau, he's back, or I think he goes straight back, which, as I alluded to earlier, I think on the 6-metre rail won't be a plus. Yaletown's on an upward spiral of sorts and will get one of the better runs in the race. The front man is a New Zealand improver from the right camp, but they're keeping him safe enough, I think. And yes, Favreau, the other main chance. But it's a pretty congested market with those 5 main chances, but I think Young Verta is a bet.
Yes. What do you think about that the New Zealand form, Mark? Milford certainly didn't frank it last week, did he?
No, he didn't. Just looking at the figures I use, they're competitive, but certainly not a class above or anything. He's probably in the race, and you just got to respect Murray Baker.
Absolutely.
I suppose.
Yeah, I'll be looking for a push from Robin, yourself, Mark Shean, regarding Young Verdo. He's paraded outstanding the last couple of times. We've seen him down in Victoria, so as long as he's transferred that'll be a good lead to how that horse is going up in Sydney. Race 4, the Emancipation, Group 2 over 1,500. Crone, winner at odds last start, favourite at 3.30 here from Nimmerley at 5. All Saints Eve, 7.50. Ice Bath, 8.50. So Sweet Deal. Graceful Glamour, $10 best available. Mark Shean, run us through the Emancipation.
I suppose I'll get good speed here with Graceful Glamour and also Orothea going forward, you would expect. And Rich Hips might race a little bit closer than it did last start, but a bit slowly away. Look, I haven't been on Crone its last 2, and in fact it's won its last 3, but by Craigie it's been impressive and should get a very similar run here on Saturday. Second favourite, Nimmerley, coming off a setback where it missed a run. It has had a trial and also a gallop in between races at the Kensington with a stablemate, so it's probably had enough work, but I just find Crone hard to fault here with a very similar barrier, even though, a few horses meet her a little bit better at the weights, but she looks to be flying.
Yeah, Mark Rhoden, you found Crone a couple of times, or once at least this prep. You sticking with it? Her?
I've got her second to Nimmerley, to be honest. She was great at the Gold Coast, then she won when I was on at her first Sydney run, and then, of course, won the Coolmore last start. Not as well. I mean, she carried a bit her whack of weight in the Coolmore as well, so, the weight alone is not going to be the thing that stops her on Saturday. But just with me, that's her best ever run. She's done it 3 times in a row. Due to come off at some point, I think, and at around 2-1. I mean, I think she's a huge chance in the race, but I don't want to take that price. I thought Nimmerley was outstanding. Absolutely smashed the dash first up. You know, it's 6-7 weeks, unfortunately, since then. But the tick over trial and other pieces of work since then. Hopefully, if she's fit and forward enough, she's drawn to get a perfect run. I think she is the one to beat. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see massive improvement from Graceful Glamour, who was punching on 3 deep on the speed in the All-Star Mile on what had become a pretty testing track by that stage at Moonee Valley and got beaten 200 metres. But dry tracks in Sydney, that's her go, and she'll be up on the speed, which I suspect would be the place to be. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see her improve. And then, there's a raft of them. All Saints Eve was good enough in the Coolmore. But he got Sweet Deal, could win on its best, but I'm not sure she's going that well. Ice Bath probably wants a wet track. And the rest I don't think are up to it. But, reasonably keen on Nimble E, but if Crone repeats what she did last start, she would probably win, to be honest.
Okay. Race 5, Star Kingdom, Group 3 over 1,200. California Zimbal, 460 from Prime Candidate, 850. Senior Fox, Pandemic, Roheron, they're all around that $10 mark. And then Peltzer, Easy Eddie, $11 to $12 a piece. Mark Shean, the speed map here probably sets up quite nicely for a horse like Prime Candidate.
Yeah, Prime Candidate had to do a lot of work to get across there last time out, and he's drawn a lot better here. So he should be able to find the rail and lead with, I'd say, Wisdom and Water coming across to sit outside him. I think California Zimbal just lobs into a perfect spot here right behind them in third. She looked fit enough the other day, but she definitely had improvement. She's got a great record second up. And I just think with the map where she's going to lob, she looks the winner to me. I'm a little bit worried about Senior Fox here. He's had a throat operation, but I've liked his trials, and he's drawn soft here from barrier number 1. And I think Easy Eddie on the quick backup looks a bit of value as well. He was placed in a Galaxy on a quick backup before. They were going to do that, but out of the California Zimbal race, but of course they got washed out and back a week. His run was okay the other day in fast time, so he's got some chance, but I think California sets up nicely here.
Yep, Mark Rhoden, you backed it obviously first up. One has a pretty strong second up record, the horse as well. Sticking Fat.
Yeah, California Zimbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's the one to beat. I'd like to. She's about backable, I think, at her current price. I'd like to be on her. Away from her, though, I found it a bit messy. There's some interesting runners like Prime Candidate, as you mentioned. Peltzer coming back to 1,200. Obviously never won away from Randwick, but they're, the Randwick Mile seemed to be his go, and they've abandoned. Well, they're trying something different with him, dropping back to a sprint trip. I thought Coruscate was an interesting runner. The first 2 runs of his preparation last time in were clearly his best 2. I mean, he's giving weight to them all. But just with what he was able to do fresh last prep, I wouldn't want to be losing on him at around $16, $17. But California Zimbal, definitely the one to beat.
Okay, like that little angle there with Coruscate as well, winning the Testarossa first up last prep. Vinery Stud Stakes, Group 1 over 2,000 for the 3-year-old fillies. You've got Harmony Rose, favourite at 280. Hungry Heart 6, so's Personal. Impecunious $12, Force of Will 13, Mirabelle's 14, just sort of drifts out from there. Mark Shean, Harmony Rose, favourites for this race. Your thoughts on that runner?
Well, it looks a walking race. There's just no speed in this race at all. At the very worst, she'd be second or third in the run in what we would expect to be a slowly run race. So I think she gets all favours map-wise. Had to do a lot of work there in the early stages in the Randwick Guineas, which was a race that did suit the horses sitting back off the speed. Probably got to a short enough price now, but the fact that she's going to get control of with such a good run certainly swings me her way. I don't know what to make of that Melbourne form with Personal and Star L. Zoo Dancer just gave them a flogging 2 runs ago, didn't they? And then they finished together the other day. So I don't know if that form's any good or not. What do you think, Mark?
The Flemington run last start that Star L won, I think that the key to that race was that it was a really fast pace, and I thought Personal just hit the front too early and was a sitting shot for Star L. But, the market's thinking that way here. Star L's beaten Personal last start and won $6 and the others 19. So I've got a bit of time for Personal, but I leaned to some Sydney form over it, though.
How do you handle a setup like that where Personal's come from two very fast run races and now drops into a race with basically no speed?
Well, I think, well, the Connections are going to have to make a decision here from barrier 10. I think ideally they'd like to ride Personal with sort of midfield trail, but that's not going to pan out. So I assume they roll forward and try to get in, which might not suit her either, despite the lack of speed on paper. I mean, it sets up perfectly for Harmony Rose, but I don't think she's far lap. And 280, look, the map might get her home, but I can't take 280. I think the fact that it is going to be a walking race, it certainly appears it's going to be a walking race, gives Hungry Heart a great chance, because I think she's got the best turn of foot in the race. And she's a horse they've traditionally preferred to ride very quiet and back, and she can be a bit of a risky beginner on occasions too. But from barrier 5, if they can just make some use of that and get midfield, and it becomes a 400 or 600 metre race, I think she's got the best sprint in the race. And at $6, I'd back her to run past them.
Yep. And she wasn't necessarily suited versus the day when she won the far lap either. She came from off speed.
Not at all. She was the first horse on that card to make any sort of ground like that from the position she was in too. I was quite impressed with it. Yeah, again, it wasn't a great race, but neither's this. I think if she is in touch, she might be able to out-sprint him.
Okay, let's have a look at the other Group 1, the Tancred, over 2,400. Sir Dragonet, well, slight favourite, $6 from Melody Bell, $7. Angel of Truth, Spirit Ridge, they're around $8.50 to $9.50. Toffee Tongue's the same, so's Mirage Dancer. Double figures the rest of them. Mark Shean, are you finding anything here that appeals?
Obviously a very tough race, but I thought Mirage Dancer did enough the other day over a shorter trip. He gets out to 2,400 metres on top of the ground. He won the Metropolitan here, of course, in the spring. Good record at 24. Sets up nicely from that draw, and I thought he had a good chance. Angel of Truth, obviously, probably not as wet as he would like, but he does race well off a quick backup. He won a derby off a backup, and he comes out of that weight for age race, which is probably a stronger weight for age race than this race. And I thought She's Idea wasn't entirely hopeless at the odds. I couldn't let her win without. I'd neck myself if it lobbed and I wasn't on it. So around the $25 mark, might have a spec on her. I think Spirit Ridge. I'm just a bit worried it might be a bit too quick for him second up 2,400 metres. He looked a bit big the other day and sweated up, so he could be an improver from the yard. But I thought Mirage Dancer would get a lovely run here and represented a bit of value.
Well, what do you think of Melody Bell? She's obviously won 1 billion New Zealand Group 1s, but I'm not sure that necessarily means a great deal. And first start at 2,400. Yeah,
2,400. The Sydney form looks pretty ordinary. She's only put in one decent run on a wet track, I think, in the Doncaster. And they said she tied up after work on Tuesday, which doesn't sound ideal either, so I'd want to bet around her myself.
Well, if I'm potting her, I may as well pot Sir Dragonet while I'm at it. He's been toey for at least his 2 Melbourne runs.
He was out of control in the yard there last week as well.
Okay, so Mark Rhoden, if I'm potting the top 2, who do you have for me?
Nothing. It's a horrible race. It is awful. I mean, I've Melody Bell's probably the closest thing I could find to a bet, because I think her and Sir Dragonet are the only 2 horses who have any pretensions at all to being called weight for age horses.
Yep.
And as you pointed out, they both have plenty of convictions. You could make a very strong case not to back either of them. Mirage Dancer's the one who peaked third up in the Metropolitan at 2,400 last time in, and looks set to do the same. Said, $9. It might be a shade of overs, but it's not Wade the Cannon sort of material, I don't think. But the fact of the matter is, you've got horses like Angel of Truth, we know what he is. Toffee Tongue, Spirit Ridge. These horses are single-figure odds in a Group 1 weight for age race worth $2 million. They should be 50s, if there was any guts to our weight for age ranks in this country, but there isn't. Melody Bell is totally unknown at 2,400 and drawn terribly. But she might actually be the best horse in the race. If I had to bet, I'd back her, but I don't have to.
Okay. The joys of it. Race 8, Doncaster Prelude, Group 3, 1,500. Rock is favourite. Equal favourite with Yard Ash around $4.80 a piece. Subadar $7. Buffalo Rivers $8.50. You're up to double figures for the rest of them. Mark Shean, Rock was obviously scratched from Bendigo, drawn pretty awkward. does draw pretty nice here, but will get back. What's your thoughts on the favourite?
Look, he ran very well first up in what's turned out now to be a strong race. We think it over coming out of that race and winning the Rider. He has got a good 1,500 metre record, and I don't think he paraded all that flash first up. A horse who normally looks really well in the coat, he looked a bit off to me. So, look, he's going to run on and be hard to beat, but I think a lot will depend on the track pattern, even though there is a lot of speed in this race. And the track pattern might be against my horse as well, Subadar, who I think is just thrown in with 53 kilos here. He's won at 1,200 his last two starts, but I think he's been crying out for distance. So just the way he was dodging those wet tracks, and he had to go back to Melbourne to 1,200 to find a dry track and then go to Kembla over 1,200. I think stepping up in trip is ideal. He ran a good sectional winning there. Obviously, they'll have to be running on for him to win, but I thought he was worth a play with no weight on his back.
Yep, I think that's fair enough. That Flemington win was ultra impressive when we were on course. Mark Rhoden, your thoughts on Subadar amongst others?
Yeah, I think it's a good competitive race, but I found it a bit hard to work out. I wanted to find Subadar, I just don't like the map. Yep. Mark alluded to that. I'm not sure back and wide, 6 metre rail, etc., is going to be a great setup. He's certainly good enough to win, but I just don't like that setup. If they can make some use of that barrier 5 and he doesn't get as far back as he usually does, I think he's probably the one to beat, but the market's found him. Yeah, Dash dropped 7 kilos off a good win, a good enough win in week grade, but to sort of launch into him at around $5-ish, I'd rather horses like his 2 stablemates and Archidemus and Buffalo River went there, because it could be the sparks could be flying up front. Can't really find an angle at this point betting wise. I wanted to find Batiga as well. I thought it was really good at Newcastle first up, but it's drawn in the car park as well. It's a tough race. I wonder if the punter's friend Creadiris, now it's got double figure odds, might stick his head up and just sail through in the fence and run past them all, just to stick his middle finger up at the punters who've made him 6-4 favourite about his last 10 starts and got beat. But it's that kind of race. I can't find a real betting angle at this point.
Okay, we're going to finish off with a benchmark 88 over 1,400 metres, and goodness gracious me, this is a market. $4.60 to field, Star Spangled Rodeo on top from Great News, Bound to Win, Academy, Lena's Hero. It just keeps going. Mark Shean, where's the dart landed?
Depends on the track, the way it's playing. If they can make ground, I thought Nudge was really good first up, but she will need luck and need them to be running on. Thought Great News was fantastic first up as well at Gosford. Didn't beat much, but ran a good split there to win. Didn't jump all that well, sustained a strong finish from the back. Looks to be a bit of decent speed in this race here with Academy, something fast resuming. Segalats won't be too far off them. Great News will probably roll forward as well if it jumps. So, tricky race. If they can run on, I'm having something on Nudge. If they're not, I'll probably be on Great News. Okay, Mark Rhoden, anything for yourself in the last year?
Well, this race is going to change complexion a bit tomorrow morning, because 6 of the 19 listed are emergency. So a third of the field's going to come out, which is going to change the map. And they've all got, everything's got a jockey on too, so nothing's intending to scratch at this point by the look of it. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Star Spangled Radio was going really well before its run at Muswellbrook last start, and you could make a number of excuses for it there. I'm just worried he might have been to the top, because he put in 2 really good runs in succession. Did have excuses last start, but came off that peak, and he's now got to get back up there, but he'll map well. Great News, I think, is certainly good enough to win. I don't love the jockey and barrier. I've said enough about this jockey over the years, but I won't say it again. But also his target's going to be the provincial championship, which he qualified for last start. So this could just be a tick over run. They don't desperately need to win this with the, what is it, $500,000 race coming up. That's going to be the target. Honestly, just have to wait and see how the map sets up after the scratchings tomorrow.
And it keeps going from there. Okay, that brings us to the end. Best value, any lay bets you're having? Mark Shean, I'll start with you.
I like Conrad, and I think California's in by maps fantastically in that sprint race. The Star Kingdom and Lay, I haven't given that much thought, to tell you the truth. And I'm not really fussed on Melody Bell. I know Mark liked it to some extent, but not fussed on him.
That's all right. Betfair might not be working anyway. Mark Rhoden, for yourself?
That's a good point. It's had a pretty checkered week, the old fair.
Exactly.
But anyway, well, for what it's worth, my best bet, so you can treat them as lays if you like, Shared Ambition, Nimmerley and Hungry Heart at the current prices.
Beautiful. We'll join Rob Scurry on Monday to review the meeting. It's hotting up in Sydney if it hasn't already. It's plenty of good racing ahead. Hopefully the weather holds up for the next few weeks. Thank you to you both. Go well and enjoy the card.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, mate.
See you, Mark.